Imagine being able to glance at someone and instantly understand their thoughts, desires, and true intentions. While mind reading is an impossible feat, social interaction specialist Patrick King suggests that we can get pretty close by learning to observe and interpret people's speech, behavior, and body language. In his book, Read People Like a Book, King reveals that reading others isn't about decoding their every word. It's about understanding the silent signals they emit through actions and nonverbal cues. This episode delves into how we can train ourselves to detect what people truly feel and think. But first, we must address the obstacles that often hinder us from accurately reading others. The trap of misinterpretation. We all think we're great judges of character. After a brief exchange with someone, we confidently believe we know everything there is to know about them. But the reality is far more complex. Assessing others based on minimal information leads to mistakes, and unfortunately, people often misread signs and misjudge emotions. Patrick King emphasizes that we need to consider several critical factors to avoid falling into this trap. Key obstacles in reading people. Understanding baseline behavior. The first mistake is failing to understand someone's baseline behavior. Without this, our perception of them can be skewed. King highlights how detectives on TV shows spend significant time observing a suspect's usual behavior before jumping to conclusions. For example, if your friend is naturally quiet and reserved, don't mistake their lack of enthusiasm for indifference. It might just be their default demeanor. Relying on isolated moments. A single gesture or a brief moment of interaction shouldn't define someone's character. King explains how people tend to make snap judgments from isolated instances. Take, for instance, a colleague frowning during a presentation. Your first thought might be, they hate my idea. But if you reflect, you might realize that the frown could have been caused by something entirely unrelated, like a headache. It's vital to observe multiple data points to form an accurate picture. Overlooking context. Often, we forget to consider the broader context in which someone is behaving. For example, someone speaking loudly at a busy event may appear aggressive, but they could just be trying to be heard over the noise. Context shapes behavior, and failing to take it into account will lead to misinterpretations. Questioning our own biases. This is perhaps the most challenging obstacle. We all carry biases, whether we acknowledge them or not. These biases influence our judgments, making us prone to project our own emotions or assumptions onto others. If you have a tendency to mistrust people, you might interpret harmless actions, like avoiding eye contact, as signs of dishonesty. Patrick King advises that we must constantly check our own biases to ensure we're not clouding our judgment with personal insecurities or fears. Becoming a better judge of character. To improve your ability to read people, King offers 4 simple yet crucial prerequisites. Know their baseline behavior. Observe them over time to understand how they usually act. Look for patterns. Don't rely on a single moment to form conclusions. Consistency is key. Consider the context. Recognize the situation around them that might explain their actions. Check your own biases. Separate your emotions from the situation and make sure your perceptions are not influenced by them. Once you've internalized these concepts, you'll be better equipped to understand the people around you and make more accurate assessments of their thoughts and feelings. The subtle art of body language. One of the most powerful tools we have in reading others is body language. While words can be manipulated or misunderstood, nonverbal cues are more difficult to control, making them a more reliable indicator of a person's true feelings. Patrick King emphasizes that learning to recognize and decode these subtle signals is an essential part of reading people effectively. But what exactly should we be looking for? How do we separate genuine body language from the common habits people use to hide their emotions or protect themselves? Let's explore some key body language signals and what they reveal about a person's inner world. Key body language cues: posture and positioning. Posture tells us a lot about how someone feels in a given situation. For example, a person who stands tall with shoulders back is usually projecting confidence and openness. On the other hand, someone who slouches, crosses their arms, or hides behind objects is likely to be feeling defensive, insecure, or uncomfortable. King advises paying attention to how someone's posture changes when they interact with others or are in a new environment. It's a reflection of how safe or threatened they feel. Eye movement. Eyes are the windows to the soul, as the saying goes, and they are often the most honest part of the body when it comes to expressing emotions. King explains that eye contact plays a crucial role in communication. A person who maintains steady eye contact is typically engaged and confident, while someone who avoids eye contact may be feeling anxious, guilty, or trying to hide something. But it's important to consider cultural differences, as eye contact may have different meanings in various regions. Another eye-related cue is pupil dilation. When we are attracted to someone or excited, our pupils tend to dilate. This automatic reaction can be a subtle but telling sign of someone's feelings towards us. Gestures and movement. The way people use their hands, arms, and legs can tell you a lot about their emotional state. For instance, someone who gestures expansively while speaking is often passionate and confident. On the flip side, someone with clenched fists or tense hands may be feeling frustrated, angry, or under pressure. Leg movements can be particularly revealing too. King highlights that when someone's legs are crossed away from you, it may indicate a subconscious desire for distance. On the other hand, legs directed toward you suggest openness and interest. Facial expressions. Facial expressions are one of the most immediate and clear indicators of what someone is feeling. Micro-expressions, brief, involuntary facial movements, often reveal emotions that a person may not want to show. These fleeting expressions can indicate genuine emotions, such as surprise, anger, or disgust, before the person has a chance to mask them. King also points out the mouth area, specifically the tightness or twist of the lips. A tight or pursed mouth could signal tension, whereas a relaxed or slightly upturned mouth indicates comfort and calmness. How to decode the signals. Once you've started noticing the body language cues, it's time to put the pieces together. Patrick King stresses the importance of observing body language in conjunction with what the person is saying. For example, if someone says they're happy, but their posture is slouched, their eyes are downcast, and they avoid eye contact, there's a disconnect between their words and their body language. This discrepancy can indicate that they're not entirely honest, or are masking their true feelings. But be careful not to make assumptions based on a single gesture or moment. King advises that you need to look for patterns. If someone constantly crosses their arms during meetings, it could signal a defensive attitude. But if they do so only once, it could be an isolated reaction to a specific conversation. Practical application. Reading people in real life. The real challenge is applying these insights in daily interactions. It's easy to recognize body language cues in theory, but can you interpret them in real time when you're talking to someone? King suggests practicing active observation, taking a moment to focus on the person's body language during conversation, rather than just the content of their words. Over time, you'll begin to notice these cues naturally. And while body language isn't foolproof, combining it with the other techniques Patrick King outlines in his book will give you a deeper understanding of the people around you. Final thoughts on understanding body language. Body language is an immensely valuable tool in our ability to read others. It transcends language barriers and provides raw, unfiltered insight into a person's emotions and intentions. By learning to observe and understand these cues, you can improve your interpersonal interactions and gain a deeper understanding of people's true feelings. However, King also reminds us that while body language can provide critical insight, it's not always perfect. Context, cultural differences, and individual nuances can influence how body language is expressed. It's crucial to be aware of these factors to avoid misreading the signals, tone of voice, and the unspoken messages behind words. When we think about communication, we often focus on the words people say. But what about the way they say them? The tone of voice is an often overlooked, yet incredibly powerful aspect of communication that reveals a great deal about a person's feelings, intentions, and state of mind. Patrick King highlights that the tone with which someone delivers their words can completely change their meaning. For instance, a phrase like, "I'm fine," can convey a variety of emotions depending on the tone used, ranging from genuine contentment to frustration or even sadness. Understanding the hidden messages in tone is essential to becoming proficient at reading people. Let's explore how different tones affect the interpretation of speech and how you can use them to gain a deeper understanding of the person you're interacting with. Key aspects of tone to watch. For pitch, pitch is the highness or lowness of someone's voice, and it often correlates with emotional intensity. A high-pitched voice can indicate nervousness, excitement, or even anxiety, while a lower pitch can suggest calmness, authority, or seriousness. Patrick King notes that a sudden shift in pitch, especially when someone's voice becomes noticeably higher or lower during a conversation, can be a sign that they are feeling something intense. Pay attention to these fluctuations as they often reveal underlying emotions. Pace and rhythm. How quickly or slowly someone speaks can tell you a lot about their current emotional state. If someone is speaking quickly, it may indicate excitement, impatience, or even nervousness. On the other hand, if their speech is slow and deliberate, it can suggest that they are carefully considering their words or are feeling relaxed and confident. A sudden change in pace, speeding up or slowing down, can be a clue that the person is either emotionally charged or trying to hold back something. Volume. The loudness or softness of someone's voice is another key indicator of how they feel. Someone speaking loudly may be trying to assert authority or may be feeling frustrated or angry. Conversely, a softer voice can indicate shyness, vulnerability, or even a desire for intimacy and closeness. King advises that listening closely to these shifts in volume will help you understand whether a person is comfortable, tense, or trying to avoid conflict. Intonation. Intonation refers to the rise and fall in pitch while speaking. It's a key component of how we convey meaning and emotions. For instance, a rising intonation at the end of a sentence often suggests a question or uncertainty, while a falling intonation at the end of a sentence can indicate finality or confidence. The way someone's voice rises or falls can reveal whether they are seeking approval, expressing doubt, or simply making a statement. Pauses and silences. Sometimes, it's not what's said, but the space between words that reveals the most. Long pauses or awkward silences in conversation can signal discomfort, hesitation, or reluctance. People often pause before saying something important, or they may remain silent when they are unsure about how to proceed. These silences, although subtle, are critical in understanding the emotional subtext of a conversation. How to decode the tone of voice. Patrick King emphasizes that, like body language, tone of voice is best understood by looking for patterns. It's not about focusing on just one isolated instance, but rather noticing consistent shifts in pitch, pace, or volume over time. For example, if someone is typically calm but suddenly raises their voice during a certain conversation, it's a clear sign that something important or emotional is at play. Alternatively, if someone consistently speaks in a quiet, hesitant tone, it could indicate insecurity or a lack of confidence. In conversations, be sure to combine tone with the context of the words being spoken. Someone may be saying, "I'm fine," but if their tone sounds strained, it might be a sign they're struggling with something they don't want to reveal. Putting it all together. Words, body language, and tone. So far, we've explored three primary aspects of reading people: body language, speech, and tone of voice. But to truly understand others, it's important to combine all these elements and observe them in unison. When you can successfully read the interplay between words, body movements, and tone, you gain a much fuller understanding of a person's emotional state and intentions. Patrick King explains that while each individual cue, such as body language or tone, provides useful information, it's the combination of these factors that offers the clearest picture. For instance, if someone says they're fine, words, but their arms are crossed tightly, body language, and their tone is flat and tense, tone, the message is clear. They are not fine. By using the combined power of verbal, nonverbal, and tonal cues, you can navigate conversations more effectively and build deeper connections. The final key to reading people: trust your intuition. Patrick King stresses that all of these tools, body language, tone of voice, and verbal cues, are incredibly useful for reading people. However, the final piece of the puzzle is trusting your intuition. As you practice reading people over time, you'll begin to develop a deeper instinct for understanding others. Trust your gut when something feels off. If your intuition tells you that someone's words don't align with their body language or tone, take a step back and observe. Often, your intuition is the subconscious processing of all the cues you've gathered, helping you make accurate assessments even when you don't have all the facts. Mastering the art of communication and building connection. After learning how to read people through body language, tone, and verbal cues, the next step is to master how to use this information to communicate effectively. Being able to interpret nonverbal signals, tone shifts, and the hidden meanings behind words can significantly enhance your interpersonal interactions. But reading people is only the first part of the equation. The real power lies in how you respond to these insights and use them to foster authentic connections. Patrick King explains that the key to successful communication is not just interpreting others correctly, but also adjusting your own behavior based on what you read from others. Once you gain clarity on someone's feelings or intentions, you can communicate in a way that resonates with them and deepens the connection. Building rapport and trust through effective communication. Mirroring body language. One of the most powerful tools you can use to build rapport with someone is to subtly mirror their body language. This isn't about copying them outright. It's about reflecting their energy and vibe. If someone is sitting with their arms crossed, you can cross your arms too. This creates a subconscious sense of connection. If they lean in during the conversation, you can lean in as well. Mirroring makes people feel seen and understood, which builds trust and strengthens the relationship. Adjusting your tone to match the situation. When you understand the emotional tone of a conversation, you can adjust your own tone to match the situation. For example, if someone is speaking with excitement or passion, matching their energy by speaking in a similar tone can create a feeling of alignment and engagement. Conversely, if someone is upset or stressed, responding with a calm and measured tone will help soothe them and promote a sense of safety. King points out that our voices can often either amplify or diffuse tension in conversations. By consciously adjusting your tone to match or complement the other person's, you create harmony, which is key to maintaining positive interactions. Using active listening to strengthen relationships. Active listening involves not only hearing the words someone is saying, but also paying attention to the subtle emotional cues they provide through body language and tone. Patrick King highlights that one of the best ways to connect with others is to give them your full attention. When you are fully present, without distractions, interruptions, or judgments, you demonstrate that you value the other person's perspective. Active listening also involves validating the other person's feelings. For instance, if someone shares something challenging, instead of immediately offering advice or solutions, try acknowledging their emotions. A simple statement like, "I can see why that would make you feel upset," can go a long way in making someone feel heard and respected. Practical examples of using people reading skills in real life. Now that you understand the tools for reading people, how do you apply these skills in real-life situations? Let's explore a few scenarios where these techniques can help you navigate conversations and interactions more effectively. In a job interview. During a job interview, reading your interviewer's body language and tone can give you an advantage. If the interviewer is nodding enthusiastically while you speak, it's a good sign that they are engaged and interested in your responses. If they're leaning forward and maintaining eye contact, they likely want to hear more about your experiences. On the other hand, if they're crossing their arms or glancing away, they may be feeling disengaged, and it might be time to adjust your approach by asking them questions or emphasizing key points in your conversation. During a conflict. In a conflict, understanding body language and tone can help you de-escalate the situation. For example, if your partner is raising their voice, instead of matching their intensity, you could lower your tone and speak calmly. This often causes the other person to mirror your behavior, leading to a more constructive and less emotionally charged conversation. Recognizing defensive gestures, such as crossed arms or a rigid posture, also gives you a chance to address those issues with empathy before the situation worsens. In casual social interactions. In social situations, the ability to read others can help you tailor your responses to make people feel more comfortable and engaged. If someone is speaking softly and avoiding eye contact, they may be shy or uncomfortable. In this case, you can gently adjust your body language to match theirs and create a more inviting environment by leaning in slightly and speaking in a reassuring tone. This will help them feel more at ease and more likely to open up. The power of authentic connection. Ultimately, the art of reading people is not just about gathering information, it's about creating authentic connections. Once you've learned to interpret the signs others are giving you, the true challenge is to use this knowledge to build meaningful relationships, whether in your personal life, professional environment, or social circles. Patrick King emphasizes that the goal of reading people is not manipulation, but connection. By understanding others on a deeper level, you can respond in a way that makes them feel truly seen and heard. This leads to more open, honest communication and stronger bonds. Key takeaways. Master the basics. Start by recognizing the most basic cues, body language, tone, and words, and practice observing them in daily interactions. Be aware of context. Always consider the broader context in which the communication is taking place. Context shapes behavior and emotional expression. Focus on consistency. Look for patterns in a person's behavior over time. One-off gestures or shifts in tone might not mean much, but repeated actions speak volumes. Use your insights for connection, not manipulation. The purpose of reading people is to build trust and strengthen relationships, not to gain an unfair advantage. Final thoughts. Mastering the art of reading people is a lifelong practice that can deeply enrich your personal and professional relationships. The more you practice, the better you'll become at understanding the unspoken cues around you and adapting your communication accordingly. Whether you're navigating a challenging conversation or simply trying to understand someone better, the insights you gain through careful observation and active listening will help you connect with others in more meaningful ways.